Hello guys, welcome back to Annie Narrates. Here, we review stories that beautiful people like yourselves post on the internet. Today's title goes like this. Sister-in-law makes a public post blaming me for quote-unquote isolating my husband because he declined her wedding invitation. So I post about what had happened 6 months ago, and now everyone's mad at me because sister-in-law's fiancé left her. Hey, I'm gonna try and explain everything in one post right now, so please bear with me if it's a little too long. So, recently my sister-in-law Helen, 28 female, made a post on Facebook. I'll paste the post here with the exact words. Quote, I'm incredibly disheartened to announce that my dearest little brother Pete, my husband's name, will not be joining us on what's supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my wedding. I really wish that your wife wouldn't isolate you from your family this way. Mom, Dad, and I really miss you loads every day, and we hope that you'd be able to find your way back to us sometime soon. I'm posting this here so this reaches you somehow, since you have blocked me, but I still wish you would reconsider and attend my wedding. We would still love to have you there and reconcile. Love, Helen. End quote. She posted this 4 days ago, right after my husband told her that he wouldn't be attending her wedding. For context, Helen and I went to college together, and she's hated my guts ever since. We had a bunch of common friends, and so we did get along initially. It's not like we were the best of friends or anything, but we did have a group of friends, and she happened to be a part of that group. She and I personally weren't that close, so once, I think in our third trimester, I decided to go out drinking with my friends for my birthday. We had a group chat too, so we would discuss it there, and asked her if she'd like to come along as well, but she declined because she was sick and needed to stay back in her dorm to recover. I was cool with that, so we went out without her and a couple of other folks in the group who happened to be busy. Again, let me say that Helen and I were never really close, but for some reason, she got very offended that we'd abandoned her and blamed it all on me for making plans without keeping her in mind. The other people who hadn't been able to make it weren't upset and didn't even care about me going out without them, because it wasn't as if they hadn't been asked. They were just busy. And I was a lot closer to others compared to Helen, so the fact that she was having a fit over this, but the others didn't seem to care, made me feel like she was taking this way too seriously. I even reached out to her to apologize personally, because I didn't know she would take it to heart. But instead of just accepting the apology like a normal person, she lashed out at me and started accusing me of trying to exclude her on purpose, because apparently I was threatened by her or something. That led to a huge fight between us, because while I tried to be nice to her and apologize, she had been nasty to me and I wasn't gonna take that. So after our fight, she decided that she was going to make our friends choose between her and me, and when it came down to it, most of our friends stuck by me because the way that she'd been acting was totally juvenile and ridiculously stupid. That of course pissed her off even more, and she spent the rest of her time in college trying to outdo me at everything, hating me, and constantly trying to stir the pot with me, but with no success. Then we graduated, and we weren't in touch for a couple of years, but then I started dating her brother, my husband, and we were forced to come face to face once more. Pete and I have been together for 4 years, and have been married for 1.5 years. So I think she's had more than enough time to bury the hatchet with me, but she hasn't. I tried to be nice to her, but she never reciprocated my efforts, and couldn't even be bothered to be civil towards me. So I began to avoid her as well, since it just wasn't worth it to try and be friends with her when she didn't want that. It's been a couple of years now, and at any social gathering, we avoid each other and don't talk. I was fine with it, and so was she until she announced her engagement about 8 months ago. She announced it on social media first, and my husband and I only found out later through my in-laws. Pete has tried to patch things up between us in the past, but when it didn't work, he also stopped trying, but he remained on speaking terms with his sister. He didn't think anything had changed between them, but when she didn't personally tell him that she was engaged, not even once, he started to think that there was something wrong. She didn't bother to talk to him for several weeks after the engagement, and then, about 5 weeks after her engagement, she finally contacted him and invited him to her engagement party. But even then, she just invited him and not me. Like she made it very clear to him that I wasn't welcome there. She'd sent him an invitation card anyway, and along with that, she'd call him to make amends and had apologized for not calling him after the engagement because she was too quote-unquote busy. I didn't buy that she was too busy to make a phone call because before her engagement, she would call Pete occasionally and it had stopped only after that. I was pretty sure it was because now that she was getting married, she wanted to make it very clear to me that I wasn't welcome at any events that she'd have for the wedding. Not her engagement party, not her bridal shower, and obviously not the wedding. So to avoid me or put me down or whatever it is that she was trying to accomplish, she was willing to also put her relationship with her brother at risk since she knew now that we were more of a package deal, especially for family events like these. When she called to invite Pete to the engagement party, she told him that she wanted him to come by himself because it was a quote-unquote private thing and she wanted only her close friends and family with her. Pete didn't end up going and told her that he would be busy because he didn't want to attend without me. And it turned out that her engagement party wasn't private or small at all, and she'd invited a bunch of people whom she wasn't even close to and even posted photos with them on her socials. She had just lied to Pete so he wouldn't bring me with him. That was 8 months ago, and after the engagement party, Pete stopped talking to Helen altogether and didn't respond to any of her texts after that. More than a month went by and they didn't talk, so around 6 months back, Helen personally visited us to talk to Pete. It was the weekend, so both he and I were at home, but she ignored me the entire time and only talked to Pete. She told him that she wanted an explanation as to why he had been avoiding her, and Pete told her the same thing that she told him when she hasn't spoken to him for weeks after her engagement and said that he'd been quote-unquote busy. Things were really tense between them, but Helen made things worse by telling Pete that she didn't have a problem with him. She had a problem with me, which is why she'd been acting weird after her engagement, because she didn't want me around at a time when she was supposed to be having fun. I was taken aback that she'd said it right in front of me because I'd been in the room all along, but I tried not to show it and kept my mouth shut. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of her response, but Pete got extremely upset over it and told her that if she had a problem with me, then she definitely had a problem with him as well, because her reasons were weak and invalid. He brought up how she'd been acting petty and stupid right from the beginning of our relationship, even though I tried to be cordial with her at first. And honestly, it wasn't even my fault that she had lost her friends in college. It was her own psychotic and unreasonable behavior that drove everyone away, but she made me the scapegoat for it. Pete told her all of this and they ended up getting into an argument for like an hour or so. I tried to intervene and stop them, but neither of them was willing to listen to me, so it just went on, and they ended up saying a lot of cruel and hurtful things to each other. In the end, Helen said that he had let her down by picking me over her and that she'd keep a door open for him in case he changed his mind about whose side he was on, but she wasn't going to entertain this sort of disrespect anymore. It was the exact same ultimatum situation that she'd put our college friends in back when she was pissed at me, and yet again, she was going to be disappointed because she wasn't going to get picked. Then she left, and for 6 months, we haven't been on speaking terms. She's supposed to get married in a couple of weeks, and that's why she made that post, because we did receive an invitation to her wedding, but we declined it, given the circumstances. My in-laws know about all of this, but didn't interfere and still haven't. They did tell me that they had nothing to do with the post and didn't even know she was going to post that. They made her remove their names from the post, but haven't told her to take it down because they don't want to meddle in something like this. My in-laws and I spoke on the day of the post, but we didn't contact Helen that day. Instead, I told Pete that if she was willing to be nasty, then we shouldn't bother to play nice either, and we posted everything that had happened. We posted why exactly we weren't attending, what she'd said 8 months ago around the time of the engagement party, and then the last fight 6 months ago where she made it very clear that I wasn't welcome at the wedding or any other events because of some stupid crap that happened in college. It was her own fault that we weren't attending, or more precisely, her brother wasn't attending. She was the one who had taken things way too far with him, so there was no point in pretending that she was the victim here. I hadn't told my husband that he couldn't meet his sister or whatever. She'd given him that ultimatum and he had picked me. So this bullcrap about me quote-unquote isolating him was nothing but a ton of BS. We posted our side of the story, and just as we'd expect, The handful of friends and family members who had been on her side were now on ours and were reaching out to tell us that they were sorry for believing the worst of it instantly. I didn't blame them because Helen is usually an expert manipulator, but she'd fail here because, unfortunately for her, Pete and I aren't that easy to manipulate, and I keep it real with people, so they're not gonna fall for her stupid tactics to seek attention and sympathy. We intended for the post to just reach the same audience that had seen Helen's post, but her fiancé saw it too, and here's where things get a little rough. So, apparently she'd already been having a hard time with her fiancé while planning for the wedding. I guess she'd come controlling and crazy in a way, and her fiancé was struggling to accept that new avatar of hers. So, they'd been fighting a lot. Then, with the drama that happened after her post, her fiancé ended up leaving her. He had warned her several times not to make that post and create unnecessary fuss right before their wedding, but she'd gone ahead and done so anyway. Then came my post where I pretty much exposed the way that she'd been behaving, and that led to another fight between the two of them, because she told her fiancé a very different version of why she hated me in college and how her brother had married her bully, me. In her version, she was the victim, but that wasn't the truth, and I guess when he questioned her about it, she couldn't come up with more lies to cover it up, so it all just blew up in her face. Her fiancé left her, and yesterday she sent me and Pete about 12 voice notes where she was totally sloshed while telling us what we had done and how we had ruined her marriage before it even took place. We didn't respond to any of those messages, but this morning, even my in-laws called us to suggest that we should apologize since this has gotten way out of control. We brought up how they refused to meddle when it was Pete who was being attacked, but now they were cool with meddling. So, my in-laws are pissed off as well. Pete and I don't know what to do because we do feel bad that this got out of our hands like this. But then again, it's not like we did anything of our own accord. We only retaliated, and how we were supposed to know that she was having problems with her fiancé anyway. Pete is upset, and so am I because we have no clue what to do right now. Neither of them has broken the news of their breakup anywhere yet, so nobody knows apart from me, Pete, and my in-laws. But if we don't make things right, then I don't think there will be a wedding in the first place. I don't understand what to do right now. Maybe deleting the post will be the right move, but I don't think I have anything to be sorry for. Especially now since I have done everything in my power to be a decent person to Helen, but it was she who rejected all those attempts by both Pete and I. She's always had a problem with me and has constantly been competing with me for no real reason, and this one time, it all blew up and backfired onto her. I don't think it's fair to blame me, but my in-laws certainly are. I feel like I should just take down the post, apologize, and end it because I don't want to break up a relationship and live with that guilt on my conscience. So what do you guys think? Am I the a-hole for posting the truth about my sister-in-law after she accused me of isolating my husband? Hi, I'm not apologizing to anyone, at least not after what Helen did today. My in-laws already weren't on speaking terms with us after our argument, and today, we received a call from my mother-in-law, who told us that they were very disappointed that we had chosen to ruin Helen's life over some petty feud back from when we were in college, and now, if we didn't apologize to her publicly, acknowledge that we'd screwed up, and then personally talk to her fiancé and convince him to come back to her before the wedding, they wouldn't speak to us anymore, and we'd be permanently cut off from their family. I was stunned that they even had the guts to make such demands after talking a big game about how they didn't want to intervene in their kids' fights because they didn't play favorites. It was clear to me now that there definitely was a favorite, but it wasn't Pete. Had it been him, they would have had a spine and stood up for him when Helen was trying to make us look like the bad guys online, but this is when they stepped in, only to side with Helen. It doesn't matter that she's been disrespectful and horrible to us, but apparently, we are the ones who ruined her life. Before Pete could even say anything, I decided to take matters into my own hands and told them that they were free to cut us off because now it was very obvious to us that they did indeed play favorites, and since it wasn't Pete, he wasn't obliged to answer to them or do anything for them. Then I hung up, and both Pete and I tried to ignore our phones for the next couple of hours because we were very upset about how things were going right now. The wedding was supposed to happen in 3 weeks, so they were cutting it pretty close, and in spite of everything, we didn't want the guilt of ruining a happy relationship on our conscience. They've been together for almost 3 years now, and she's actually been happy with him. Her fiancé also seems like a decent stand-up guy, and they really did look like they were very happy together. Helen had done most of the damage of the relationship herself, true, but the last straw was still something I posted, and it just made me feel weirdly guilty and bad about whatever had happened. But all that is gone now, because about 3 hours after our phone call with Pete's parents, Helen texted us from a different number. We'd blocked the number we had, so she had to use another one that we weren't familiar with to get to us. She texted us and said that she was going to convince her parents to disinherit Pete, as if that was going to affect us in any way whatsoever. Then she also added that it was very obvious that we were trying to sabotage her relationship out of quote-unquote jealousy. We blocked that number without even replying, and of course, now forget about an apology. We're not even going to entertain any of this nonsense. So, there's just 1 week to go before the wedding, and we haven't spoken to anyone from Pete's family for a while now. Not since the last update, but today, we heard that the wedding is back on. Just not the way that they'd intended. I heard a lot of this from Pete's cousin, who told us everything that was going on after my mother-in-law vented about this to her mom, and that's how we found out. So, apparently, a lot of the fights that were happening between Helen and her fiancé had to do with her not wanting to sign a prenup. I have no clue why she wasn't on board with that, because she's always talking about the importance of being financially independent and stuff online. Besides, Pete's family is relatively well off, and so is Helen's fiancé's family, but they're slightly richer. Signing a prenup shouldn't have been such a huge deal for her, but for whatever reason, she simply refused to do it for a long time and kept saying that this was an insult to her. So that was what the fight was actually about, and that's why her fiancé left, but I guess now that she's agreed, the wedding is finally back on. Both she and I have deleted our posts, and I genuinely wish her nothing but the best for her future, because I don't want any more drama right now. Pete and I are happy on our own, and so is she, I guess. This is where it should all end, without any more of her or my in-laws trying to make us feel bad. Pete agrees with me and thinks that now nobody among them should feel the need to talk to us, but it would also be nice if they stopped talking about us too. They haven't talked to us for the last few weeks because we were fighting, but that hasn't stopped them from running their mouths all over town. I've been hearing from multiple people about how my in-laws never fail to gossip about me and speak badly of me anytime they run into other people. Helen's doing the same thing too, but it's not very surprising that she's talking crap about me. I was shocked when I found out that my in-laws were doing it too, because I always felt that at least I was on okay terms with them, in spite of my strained relationship with Helen. Now I know that that's not the case at all, and for so long, I'd been mistaken to believe that they would choose Pete and me over Helen, even if she was in the wrong. At least it's all out in the open now, and we know what their priorities are. Hey everybody, it's been a while since the last update. Helen got married 2 days ago, and the photos are all over our social media feeds, even though we've blocked her. There are just people who keep posting here and there their own photos with the happy bride and groom, while they have absolutely no idea the kind of drama that went down before that, and it's good for them, I guess. They also don't know that she called me up the night of the bachelorette party from one of her friend's phone, and I guess she thought that it was a video call because she was that drunk. She went on for 6 minutes, and at first, she kept telling me to look at the ring on her finger while saying that Pete and I probably never even would have been able to afford something like that. This isn't even true, but it was hilariously sad to hear her try and make us feel bad or something. Then she told me that despite my best efforts, I had failed to ruin her relationship, and now she was back with her fiancé, who loved her more than ever. I was feeling cocky, so I asked her if he loved her and trusted her so much, then why would he ask her to sign a prenup, and if she respected herself, why would she even let him talk her into it? I just said that to rile her up even more, and it worked, because she then started screaming at me hysterically and called me a bunch of curse words, and when I started laughing in her face, she got even more incensed, and I think she broke a glass or something on the other end. I'm not too sure, because after that, I heard a lot of shrieking, probably from her friends, and they were the ones who also hung up and took the phone away from Helen, which I have to say was a good move, because I don't think that she would have been able to handle a conversation with me in that state of mind. She was already drunk, jealous, and insecure because of me, and at this point, I had nothing to lose. So if they were going to try and make me look like the villain, then I might as well lean into it and treat her with the same disrespect that she'd been treating me for all those years. Pete had been right next to me throughout that phone call, and he agreed that this was very much needed. We even decided that if she tried to bother us again, then we'd definitely take legal action against her and get a protective order or something, because her behavior was downright scary if we managed to ignore how petty and juvenile she was being. No word from my in-laws though, and I guess it's fine. They've made their call, and now if they need Pete, they're not gonna find him. We tolerated enough disrespect in the name of family, but we're just not willing to do that anymore. Alright guys, that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Please go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again guys, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.